Episode 144 of Australia's #1 marketing show. It's time for Griffo and I to talk funny business. So strap in as we cover trade shows, the power of simplifying, how to get speaking gigs, and plenty more.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day folks, and welcome back to Australia's favourite small business marketing show. I am your host, Timbo Reid, but you, so much more importantly, are a motivated small business owner who is there to build the empire that your business deserves to be. And we're going to help make that happen right here, right now at the Small Business Big Marketing headquarters, because we are brought to you by the very good folk at Net Registry who help get your marketing sorted online. So guys, domain name registration, you want to nail that domain. You want to get that website hosted so it doesn't crash. You want to get it designed so it actually looks beautiful and functional and works. And you want to get it coded and developed so that it, never ever breaks down. You want to get it found on Google. You want to get it found on social media. They do all that. Check out netregistry.com.au because they help make this show happen. Tell them Timbo sent you. Now, guys, this is an episode where Andrew Griffiths and I get together and talk funny business. Some would say not so funny business. Yeah, leave it to you. Leave a comment in the show notes of the episode 144 if you've got an opinion on that. Listen, Griffo is a prolific small business author. That's why he comes onto the show, to keep me honest and for us to have a good old honest marketing and business discussion. He's written 11 books. He's got his 12th on the way. He is a writing and publishing machine. So the two of us get together. We knock out a whole lot of topics over the next sort of 40, 50 minutes. Sit back, grab a cuppa, possibly a pen and paper, because there may be some notes to be taken. If not, just enjoy the business banter. See you on the other side. Me old mate AG from way up in FNQ. How are you, buddy?
Very well, Mr. Timbo Reid. How you doing, my friend?
Matey, it's just a pleasure. We haven't done a funny business for a few weeks, and when I rang you before, it was just a pleasure to hear your voice.
It's been a very funny-free zone.
Yeah, that's right. It's been serious business. Hey, mate, we have got so much to cover because we haven't caught up. We've had a number of listeners been sending us in emails and questions. Let's just go through the topics we are going to try and cover today. We've got the value of trade shows, the importance of key messaging. We're going to give an update on what we've both been up to. I have made a massive technological change in my life. I've been to Dubai. We're going to talk about referral marketing. By the way, the technological change wasn't the fact that I'd been to Dubai, but that's another thing that's happened. You want to talk about the importance of simplification because you're a simple man, really, at heart. We both are.
Absolutely.
And the power of disconnecting in order to focus. We have also got a listener question about how to get speaking gigs. A naturopath is asking us that question. And I've got another listener, Griffo, who's asking us how to get rid of clients. So, mate, this is just a jam-packed filled show.
Yeah, absolutely. No time for pussyfooting. I like that one, how to get rid of clients. It's been one of my passions over the years. It's saying, right, when you've got a miscreant client, how do you get rid of them? And I think that the moral to that story is we all should get rid of them. That's the place where we should start. But anyway, all right, now what have you been up to, Timbo? Talk to me.
Oh, mate, well, right, immediately I'm in the middle of a roadshow for one of Australia's great brands in Aussie Post. And
are you delivering mail or?
It is as onerous as that. It's probably not as important as that, but did my first one yesterday off the back of that really interesting event, mate. Just all their post office shop owners coming together to meet annually, and I'm emceeing it. Also doing they've got some TV coverage throughout the event, throughout the venue where they are. So I'm interviewing a lot of people. It's just been fantastic, and I think let's talk trade shows and the importance. I've actually got a few people of recent times that I've been speaking to who have been paying money to be at trade shows. And, my view, Griffo, having now emceed one all day yesterday and interviewing exhibitors, is that some get it right and some get it wrong.
Absolutely. Well, and of course, it's like most things in business, particularly in small business, is really no one actually gives you any advice on that. It's just generally go and set up and stand there handing out a brochure. And people get it wrong purely for that reason alone. I don't think anyone sets out to intentionally get it wrong, but you're right. You can either really get a great result from a trade show, or you can just blow it completely, and I see that all the time as well. So these Aussie Post folks, just on passing, that most of those are franchisees, aren't they? I don't know if everyone realises that.
They are. They're called licensees. They're licensees.
Yep. Okay, so that's like mum and dad kind of own a small Australia Post in I don't know, Dubbo or something like that. So
correct,
yeah, okay.
Correct. Now what we've got, so the exhibitors are all very big brands, as you can imagine. Australia Post have great alliances with some wonderfully big, the biggest brands, in the telecommunications space, in the banking space, in all sorts of spaces. One thing I've noticed in particular, well, actually a few things, but the one thing is key messages, or the lack of key messages. Going around, one of my jobs yesterday was to go around and interview the exhibitors, the sponsors and the exhibitors. Now, quite simple. I walk up to the stand. I say, okay, who's your spokesperson? Question number one. So tip number one, have a spokesperson if you're going to be at the stand, if you're going to have a stand at an expo. Number two, if there is a spokesperson, make sure they are very, very clear on the key messages. Because my next question as the interviewer is, okay, what do you got? What are we going to pitch? What are we going to focus on? What's that one thing? So like I remember one of the last guys I went up to yesterday, fantastic. He goes, we're going to talk about coverage. Ripper. Okay, coverage. We go deep into coverage, as opposed to many others who are just going, don't know, let me think. And then all of a sudden they'd get a list of 5 things out and they'd be madly scribbling notes. And it's like, that doesn't make for a good interview. It doesn't make for good opportunity to get a single focused message across.
Great points. I mean, I think another interesting thing that I've seen with trade shows, and I've presented at many trade shows over the years, and I think that sometimes people, large companies in particular, just kind of go, oh, it's just something you do, and it becomes a little bit like, I just put whoever's new on the trade show stand.
So true.
Look, and it's almost like it's a second thought. So the people on the stand actually don't have knowledge, don't really understand it, but they're wearing the uniform and they've got all the stand looks impressive, but they can't actually, really sell the company. My advice is, if you're thinking about attending a trade show, you should put your best people on the stand. You don't put your most inexperienced people on it. It's a great promotional opportunity, not just a way to fill 2 days or 1 day or 5 days or whatever it is. It drives me berserk.
Mate, and the cost of the stand alone, it can run into the thousands. You've got to spend multiples of that to actually then get a return on it. You make a good point about just putting, the newest or the youngest people on people it doesn't matter if they lose their weekend, that type of stuff. But
that's right. Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed was that, just lost my train of thought there because there's so many ideas going through my head there, but they just kind of, it's that my point, excuse me, social media. These big companies worry about social media, right? We get onto Facebook or Twitter and people are going to be talking about us and we're going to have our staff talking about us. Well, guess what? Putting your staff on a stand is social media, that is,
that's right.
that is your people having conversations with people offline, not online, offline. And you want to manage that puppy really well.
Well, and another thing that I've noticed, again, being in the booth at trade shows, is that this philosophy of, we'll just sit there and we'll wait. I look at it like exactly the same as running a business. If you sit in your booth and you wait for people to come to you, well, that's fine. Yes, you need to have someone in there. But the idea of a trade show is to work the trade show, to look for opportunities. Most of the trade shows I've gone to, the best business I've got has been from other people who are displaying there. And I've always made a point of going around to every other booth, introducing myself, giving them brochures, telling them who I am, telling them what I do, finding out about their business. Is there a way we can work together? Is there a way we can promote? And it's amazing what you can get. Yet I see so many people with blinkers on. They go into their booth, stand behind their booth all day, look bored, and then kind of leave at the end of the day. And go,
it's like looking at the watch. I encouraged all the attendees in my little piece up front at the start of the day to actually actively walk up to the exhibitors and start a conversation. And if that's hard, and some people find that hard, so I said to them, set an objective of meeting 5 to 10 new exhibitors and opening the conversation with a weird and wonderful question. And this could apply to the exhibitors as much as it could the attendees. So my weird and wonderful question, it was an Australia Post conference, was things like, what's the funniest or what's the most memorable thing you've ever received in the post, or or forgetting anything regarding post, what's your superpower, what are you most scared of, which is kind of wacky stuff, but I wanted people to have fun with it. So there was, creating conversations, because at the end of the day, these expos, these conventions, they're just massive networking events. That's how they should be viewed.
Absolutely. That's a great point, though, about what you're saying. It's like social media on analog.
Yeah.
In reality, isn't it? It's like where we have to go out and shake hands. And so many people feel that little bit of discomfort with that. So I think your idea there, have an ice-breaking kind of a question. When people are coming to your booth, just make it relaxed, make it easy. Can I give you a funny, quick anecdote about trade shows, Timbo?
As long as it's really funny. Like, I want to be just going, Griffo, that is a ripper.
Oh, the first trade show I went to was for the travel industry, and it was in Darling Harbour in Sydney, and I was representing a Great Barrier Reef company, and I remember it was open to the public, and I'd spent hours in this booth. I had sets of fins and shells and wooden fish and things hanging down. My booth looked amazing. I was on it by myself for the first morning. Finished, the bells rang, the doors opened, and I thought, right, I'm just going to run out, go to the toilet, grab a quick cup of coffee and come back. I did exactly that, came back, and my booth had a bit of tumbleweed rolling across the floor. It was empty.
Yeah.
These people had descended on it like a group of piranhas. Anything that wasn't bolted down was taken. Everything, and I mean literally, the fins, the face masks were gone. And people's arguments. I caught a guy carrying off one of the wooden fish. His argument was, well, it wasn't attached. I assumed it was a free giveaway.
Oh, they're good, aren't
no.
they? Have a go at that. So what did you do for the rest of the trade show?
Well, it was very problematic, actually, mate. I had to stick brochures on the wall, and I went from having this amazing stand to having this really dinky-looking stand with a few brochures stuck on the wall, and I then had to go out that afternoon and buy a whole bunch more gear. It was just hilarious.
Well, listen, I have always said about you, you are a very giving fellow. You just
but people will steal anything that's not bolted down, so you got to bolt stuff down.
Love it. There's certainly a lot of giveaways yesterday. Just to finish off the trade show discussion, because there was one big idea I saw one of the big brands do yesterday, and it was a bit of guerrilla marketing, and it was a great promotional idea. They basically gave away free T-shirts and said, okay, attendees, you put one of these T-shirts on and you wander around the expo, and if we tap you on the shoulder, you win a $150 voucher. Cool. Encouraging people to become mobile billboards throughout the show. So, of course, what you're seeing by sort of midway through the show is just a whole lot of attendees wearing this brand's T-shirt. So it was very clever.
That's very smart. Love it.
Griffo, that is the power of trade shows. Let's move on now, mate. I have been in Dubai, and I've had a few people kind of hit me up saying, tell us about Dubai. So
very interesting.
It was interesting. I guess if I could give you the kind of, and I've touched on it briefly in a previous episode of Small Business Big Marketing, but just to kind of finish that discussion, to me, from a marketer's point of view, going to Dubai, I was just reminded at just how important branding is, because every big brand in the world is in Dubai, and I'm not talking. Of course, massive budgets. They've all got massive budgets, but just the importance of building a brand for no matter how big or how small you are is just marketing 101.
An interesting point. Sorry to interrupt you there, mate. I was contacted about 18 months ago by a kind of a Dubai Small Business Association of some sort, and I was told by these guys that the Dubai actually has the highest rate of small business failure in the world. And I struggled to understand it. Well, I don't even know. I mean, I asked why on earth could this possibly be? And the people that I was talking to about it, they were saying, well, what happens is there's a lot of money there. People invest in a small business. They put immigrant labour to work in it, or however that is. But if it's not working within 2 months, they just shut the doors and then do something else. Mm-hmm. So it's recorded as a failure or a closure or whatever it might be. But in reality, there's just there's this really big lack of commitment to a small business because there's a whole pile of money. It doesn't really matter if it works or not.
Right.
That difference between most of us in our business, if we said our business didn't work, the ramifications are enormous.
Well, they are. Look, it's funny. I mean, when I reflect back on Dubai, I didn't see a lot of small businesses. I did if I went to the souks, which are the kind of markets, where there's masses of small businesses there. And I talked about that. I just talked about this concept of there's just way too much choice at those markets. It's like no one's differentiating themselves. But one of the other things that the supermarkets, the malls do incredibly well is they all have an attraction, and I think this is a principle that we could potentially apply to small business as well. But it's like, that shopping centre over there has got the world's largest aquarium or the world's largest fish tank. That one's got a ski slope, of course, 400-metre ski slope. Why wouldn't you? That one over there has got an Olympic-sized ice hockey ring. It just goes on and on and on. And it's like every single one of them, beyond their core business, which is a shopping centre, has this thing that attracts people to go to it. So interesting kind of concept of how that may play out in small business.
Very interesting. And again, it's that whole point differentiation, isn't it? And shopping centres in Australia have been trying to do that, but they haven't really gone to that stage yet of saying, well, your centre is a destination, but you've got to give people more of a reason to go there. I mean, the Asian shopping centres, I haven't been to Dubai, but certainly the ones in Bangkok, Hong Kong, those kind of places are just extraordinary. I mean, you go and you buy a Maserati, buy an apartment, buy a loaf of bread and get some noodles. It's like incredible stuff. But
everything is big, massive.
Absolutely.
We don't know what big is over here in this little country town called Australia.
Absolutely, mate. I'm actually heading to Singapore shortly as well. It'll be interesting. I haven't been there for a few years, so it'll be interesting to see what's going on that side of things. What's happening in the small business entrepreneurial space there. And I think that's a great point, though, for me. I love going overseas. I love going around Australia, and I know you do too. The thing is, I think it's always good to get out of your own town and see what other people are doing from a business point of view. I write page after page of notes, take photos. What are people doing? I love going to the States and seeing, well, what's hot when you go to a shopping centre? What franchises are appearing out of nowhere? What are people buying? What's going on? Because no doubt at all that, I believe that generally the trends that are happening overseas really do come back to Australia in a different time zone. Like in America, it used to be 2 or 3 years and then they would be here. Now it's a little bit shorter, that time frame. If it's big in America at the moment, it'll be big here within about a year. It's a way to benchmark where your business is at as well when you start to see what are other people doing, how are they advertising. I flick through the local phone books. I just collect brochures on what businesses are. Even walk into a business and just grab a brochure if they've got something, just to kind of see what their messaging is. I find it quite fascinating. You get great ideas. I think too many of us spend too much time just comparing ourselves to the same business up the road.
Well, and by the way, I mean, there may well be small business owners listening to this, saying, well, we don't have the time or necessarily the money to head over to America and have a look. But that, like the internet, you can get onto any shopping centre's website or get onto your competitor's website or your industry's website overseas and have a look at what's happening, because you will learn a lot just by doing that.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I encourage it highly.
Now, Griffo, let me talk to you about a listener question from Rockin' Ronnie Covenants, who's a long-time listener of the show, and he asks a great question.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, exactly right. First-time caller, no-time listener. But he says, I have a colleague who is a naturopath. So he's asking a question on behalf of a colleague. He's that kind of bloke,
Good on you, Ronnie.
Have a colleague who is a naturopath looking to do some speaking gigs to help build their profile and brand. Any tips that you can pass on?
Yes, write a book.
Yeah, look, I shouldn't laugh because I know you are 110% serious.
I am. It certainly helps. Like everything, I mean, it's a big question, and it's a show in its own right in many respects. But as you and I both know, to become a speaker, you've got to have a point of difference. You've got to have a reason that people would want to hear you present. So I think you have to be able to differentiate yourself from that perspective, and like, again, most of these type of things, you kind of got to start small. You got to say, well, maybe I'd start with my own workshops, and I'll, try to promote my services and my speaking to other businesses, other organizations, and you slowly move your way up the food chain to where you might be able to promote yourself to speaking bureaus who are...
Totally. So there's two things there. There's one is, and it's classic, the old marketing concept, get your message right first before you worry about where to put it. So message, you talk about your point of difference. And if I reflect on the speakers that I'm meeting, as now I'm a speaker as well, the speakers that I'm meeting on the circuit, they've all got a point of difference. There's Tristan White, who's from the Physio Co. He's got the third best workplace in Australia to work at. He's got this amazing physio business. He talks about how to create a compelling place to work. There's Daniel Flynn from Thank You Water. These both people have appeared on Small Business Big Marketing of recent time. Daniel's gone and created a water brand, which is a social enterprise, putting all the money back into third world countries starting wells. So he's got got this really strong point of difference and point of view. I mean, every business, every speaker that I'm coming across has got a clear point of difference or a book. So, there was, what's the fellow's name who's got that book? In fact, you want to talk about simplicity. What's that book at the moment doing the rounds? It's called One or...
The One Thing.
The One Thing. Yeah. So
I've got it sitting on my desk.
So, he's, what's that fellow's name?
Gary Keller.
Is it Gary Keller?
Yeah.
I thought it was
AJ Papasan.
Yeah, okay. So, again, just having that. So, your naturopath friend, Ronnie, really needs to develop a strong point of difference around some area of here we go. Naturopathy. Okay, viewer questions. We need words that we have to say that have got less than 4 letters in them. Correct.
But you're right. The big question that whenever someone says, "Oh, I want to do more speaking," I think that a potential speaker has to be able to answer is, why would someone want to hear them? Why would someone pay to go and see them? Why would someone spend a day of their time or an hour of their time listening to that person? And I don't mean that in a smart-assy kind of way. I just mean we have to be able to answer that. It's like in business. Why should someone buy from you? It is really that whole key, because there are a lot of people presenting, and there's very few people manage to make a career out of it because they don't get the basics done. I think there's a bit of a mental shift you have to do, Timbo. I think it's a bit about you have to be able to look at yourself as a product almost and say, okay, well, if I've got to market myself as a product, all of the things you just said, from getting your message right to your promotional material to your positioning to your, all of those kind of things need to be decided. And you got to put a little bit of work into it as well. So, but there's plenty of opportunities on the upside to present, because these days there's more conferences, there's more events, there's more things going on, and there's got to be more demand for presenters, I think, as a result of that.
Absolutely. And look, you talk about getting a book, and I absolutely concur on that. I can't talk from experience because it's not my book that's managed to get me a whole lot of speaking. It's my podcast. But so I think that whole book thing's a separate discussion. We've had it. We'll have it again. But I think the bigger point there is create content. Start creating content that allows you to express. And I think your strong opinions or really clear opinions. I think one of the things with my podcast and my speaking is that I have managed to simplify and clarify the new world of marketing to small business owners. So when I get a phone call from a client, from a prospect, from a speakers bureau, I ask, what is it that has attracted you to have me speak to your clients? And it's that ability to make clear, to simplify. So, and then I do have some strong opinions behind that, but I think whether it's a book, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a YouTube channel that just, allows you to express your opinions, that stuff can go viral, that stuff can get shared around. And all of a sudden people are going, geez, in terms of this naturopath, wow, they've got some very, very strong opinions, The other thing is story. I reflect on a physio that I saw at a networking function a few months ago. Now, she isn't speaking, but her story was really compelling to me. And when I did hear it, I thought, she could build something around it. Her story was quite simple. She was in her 20s. She wasn't a physio, but she was suffering from sciatica. She couldn't walk she had limited ability to walk for 10 years. During that time, she said, stuff this, no one can help me. I'm going to help myself. I'm going to learn physiotherapy and become a physio. She ended up doing that and cured herself. So
wonderful story.
Yeah, correct. So all of a sudden, there's your book. She's built a business out of it. If she chose to, I won't say quite easily build a speaking career out of it, but there would be the opportunity to.
No, I agree with you completely. And that point about simplicity, mate, is so vital. I think that, again, a lot of people, when they start off in the speaking world or presenting, that too much information, they try too hard. They try to make things complicated. I was just running a speaker's workshop last week, and that conversation came up again, that people struggle with the concept. Well, what I'm saying, it's too simple. That was us. They were saying, if I have to make it sound more complicated so that people see value in what I've got. But the old argument that I have these days is that we are so inundated with information. There is so much stuff around, and it's all good. Do a Google search, marketing a small business, 660 million results. Now,
thanks for that. Makes me feel really good.
It's going to take a little while to work your way through those, and there's probably another 50,000, 100,000 at it every day. But of course, the reality is, if someone who can say, well, look, this is what I do, this is what I suggest, and they've got the right degree of credibility behind them, and you keep it simple to the point, I think people resonate with that. I think that's what people want. I know I do. Limited time, always on the go. Give me a quick idea in 1 or 2 paragraphs, a quick presentation. Don't try and cure all my ills in one presentation. Address an issue, and people now specializing a lot more in certain areas. Again, that's where the opportunity comes through. So plenty of opportunity there, but you've got to think a bit about it if you want to become a presenter and do the homework. If you don't do this preliminary stuff, odds on it won't work. You'll become disenchanted with it, and you'll go, oh, well, it's too hard to become a speaker. It's not too hard to become a speaker. You've just got to follow a process.
And I'll just to wrap up that topic and question from young Ronnie. One of the things that I would do, you sure go and write a book, go and start a podcast, but choose a form of content and start sharing your knowledge. But to even simplify it, maybe a step before, go and create and pretend that no one's ever going to see this presentation, but go and create a 10-slide presentation of your most compelling opinion. Like shocking. Well, I'm going to put these 10 slides together. I am going to shock people like they've never been shocked before about the entire world of naturopathy, and see how that comes out. And it doesn't have to be shocking for the sake of being shocking, but it's got to be very strong and opinionated, I think. I'm talking at social media down under this week in Sydney, and it's funny because I'm not really a social media guy. And my first slide in fact, my first slide, it may be a slide, don't know yet, is going to be I hate social media, which is I'll then kind of back off a bit on that. But again, just having that strong opinion, having those, treat every slide like an ad, and at the end of those 10 slides, position yourself with a really strong opinion.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Great point.
Griffo, okay. We will move on because that was as you say, there's an entire episode, there's probably an entire podcast series in that, but let's keep moving. Just very quickly, I have made a major technological, I won't say advancement yet, change in my life. As listeners will know, I had my iPhone 5 stolen in Vietnam a couple of months ago. Had to then revert back to my old iPhone 4 and just kind of, was sort of sitting back going, what'll I do? Wait for the iPhone 6 or whatever. And then I saw the iOS 7 a video update, and I looked at it and go, you know what? That's a beautiful looking operating system, but it doesn't seem to have any kind of, real kind of amazing things that are going to change my business life forever. It just looks more beautiful. So I'm thinking, what's going on with Apple? I've been an Apple fanboy for about 10 years now, but so anyway, long story short, I have left the Apple Fold not in its entirety because all my computers are still Apples, but I've gone and got an HTC One phone.
Steve Jobs just rolled over in his grave. I know. There's a little bell's gone off in the wall at Apple HQ going, someone has said something negative about and left the fold, almost started leaving the fold. Is this the evolution of the brand, though? Has it kind of reached a point where people are going, the whole reason we bought Apple before was because it was so cool and unique. Now the fact that everyone's got one, it's not cool and unique anymore.
Look, I don't know about coolness or uniqueness. It wasn't a factor in my kind of thinking. Going into Telstra shops and asking, I was actually really interested. I did a bit of research, obviously, before I made the decision, asking guys in the Telstra shops, am I the only one coming in kind of questioning whether they should get another iPhone or whether one of these Android phones may fit the bill? And they said, no, not at all. We're for the first time, almost in the last 6 months, they're saying, no, there's more, not a rush of people, but there are more and more coming in going, listen, I've got to renew my phone. The plan's out of contract. I'm ready to upgrade. But before I just immediately grab the new iPhone, tell me about the HTC, or tell me about the Galaxy S4, or, tell me about the BlackBerry. And so they're having more conversations like that. And I don't know whether it's a cool thing. Maybe for some it is, but I've got this view. Look, and I might be proved really wrong. The new iPhone might come out, and I'm kind of a bit nervous about that. And it's going to be, absolutely groundbreaking. But hey, look, at the end of the day, it's a phone, and it does a few other things too. The other thing too is I looked on my iPhone and I've got 70 apps, and I think I use 5. So yeah, cool. There's lots of cool apps on there, but I'm just not using them. So it wasn't as if then that wasn't holding me to the iPhone. What I just thought was that I think Steve Jobs was such a powerful figure and had such vision that I wonder whether there is someone at Apple who now knows what we need going into the future, like Jobs did. Sir Jonathan Ives to us, actually, makes things look beautiful. Is it Tim Woods, kind of businessman, number cruncher? Oh, God, I don't know enough about the business, but I was just, as products, I'm going, it's time for a change. And I will stop because I'll let you have a comment in a minute, Griffo. I'm doing more talking than you today.
I've got nothing to say. I don't think we can be friends anymore if you're going away from iPhones. And if you start saying, well, I'm buying a PC now, I'm sorry, that's the end. Funny business has ended.
I love it. I love it.
It is, to me, what I find fascinating is, I agree with you completely about the fact that, and what the Telstra guys are saying there, is there's a lot of people having the discussion around that. We would just buy an iPhone and get the new version because that was what was coming out. About it. I'm seeing a lot of younger people with, Samsung Galaxies and whatever they might be, different. I don't really know what the new ones are, but that's the one that I see advertised a lot.
Yep.
And the Samsung store filled with people, which used to be the Apple store filled with people. And it's quite interesting just to look at it and just go, wow, isn't that amazing to see how there's a bit of a shift happening? And you're right, as a company, like, how is it holding up without that hero at the helm? It's like, you imagine Virgin, usually the ultimate Virgin's the example we use for pretty much everything. It's either Virgin or Apple. If Virgin didn't have Richard Branson at the helm, what impact would that have on the product? And I think it would actually go the same way. I think Apple will struggle. I think, share price has certainly struggled, and we're starting to see the fact that, is it losing some of its shine?
Jobs was a very creative individual. Branson, I'm sure, is creative. Branson's kind of business philosophy, though, is to go into industries that are under delivering, where you can't get there isn't a cheap version. It's less about creativity and design, and more about, it's more of a business thing for Branson. But I agree. I think Virgin would be hurt without Branson.
It's more about him.
It's more,
too.
True.
Like, even with having a gym or a financial planning product or whatever the heck he has, it's still Virgin-esque.
It's interesting. Like, I interviewed, speaking of Jim, and I think you meant Jim as in health clubs, didn't you? But I interviewed Jim from Jim's Mowing. I interviewed Jim Penman a couple of weeks ago from Jim's Mowing. Now, if he fell off the perch, I don't think the Jim's group would be affected, because what he's done has been really clever. He's built a brand, and he kind of didn't even do it purposely. We had this conversation, but he's just got this brand that stands for kind of trustworthy, honest Australian. And that's what the Jim thing is. No one in fact, people would walk past Jim Penman in the street. They wouldn't go, oh, that's Jim, in fact, because he's shaving his beard off. So you wouldn't recognise him in the first place. But that's an example of a business that does have someone out the front, but they're kind of not integral to the business, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Changing times. But, mate, good on you. I'd like you to report back on this and give everyone a bit of an update at perhaps next funny business or two. Well,
yeah, at the moment, it's a change. I mean, I've had it for 2 weeks now, and it's not as intuitive. One thing Apple are brilliant at is intuition. They just, you go, I wonder where that part of the thing, where it would be on the phone, and you don't even have to think. It's kind of where you'd think it would be. Whereas I'm just finding with the HTC, it's a whole new learning curve. So I'll keep you updated, mate, but it's kind of interesting. One of the other things too, I found that as a speaker, going back to speaking, I would get up in front of a group of small business owners, and I would come across purposely. I'd always make a joke of it, but I'd come across as Mac-centric. In fact, I coined the term in my keynote as this term called Macketing, because Macs are made for marketing. Whereas, and I would get every now and then I'd get someone offside, and so I thought, you know what, as a marketing speaker, I think it's good to have kind of a bit of Android knowledge. That was kind of the thinking as well. So, mate, let's move on.
Still not going to justify it for me.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks for your support in all that. Really appreciate it.
Let's move on. But shall we talk about simplifying things?
Why not?
What do we talk about? Hey, an interesting little scenario for me. Talk about goals, trends, and this really actually ties in pretty well with what we've been talking about so far. I thought it's relevant. You made mention of a book a few minutes ago, and it's called The One Thing, The Surprisingly Simple Truth Behind Extraordinary Results. It's interesting. I was just looking at my diary, my desk, and the latest books that I've got. The next one is One Word That'll Change Your Life by Dan Britton, Jimmy Page, John Gordon. Interesting kind of points. Now, what I'm seeing so much is this trend towards simplification of information, simplification of what we do, simplification of our offer. Now, something just to go back one step, mate, I've had a very lucky and very fortunate thing kind of happen in my little world. I've been asked to be a columnist for Inc. magazine and website out of New York.
And right.
Which is extraordinary from the point of view. I mean, their website gets 18 million visitors a month, which is just quite phenomenal. And as you can imagine, I'm going to be the only Australian columnist that they have, which is quite, again, I keep shaking my head and going, I can't believe it, which is wonderful. But what's been really interesting is the process to come on board with them. I have to be trained, briefed. They have an editorial board. It's a big organization, of course. And this discussion around simplifying, the information that we share. So their philosophy, they have a lot of statisticians. They have a lot of, market research. They're obviously being online these days. You can really analyze the data about what people are reading and what they're not. And without a doubt, the trend from people at the moment is to just keep blog articles shorter, to keep the topic simple, one thing, and explore one thing in detail. And the blog posts that are getting read, and the newsletters that are getting read, and the speakers that are getting heard, the books that are getting bought, are really narrowing back down to one idea, to the point of a book coming out with the one thing or the one word. For example, this book, The One Word, talks about pick one word as your theme for the year. And it might be something like,
happiness,
detail. It might be two words: financial security, or whatever it might be. But just pick on that one kind of word idea, and then everything you do focuses around that. Independence, clarity, again. And it's interesting for me seeing that, because I think we live in a world, I certainly do, of craziness. Piles and piles of information, piles and piles of correspondence, piles and piles of stuff where you're writing articles. I do a lot of articles that I write. And in the last 3 years, the average length of the articles that I'm being asked to write has dropped down to a third.
Well, that would be in line with our attention span.
Absolutely. Or me writing really bad articles. People want less of them is probably more the point. No, don't make it 1,000 words. But I just noticed that. I went back and just had a bit of a review of, normally people used to ask for 1,000 to 1,500 words. Now they're saying 500 words maximum. That's a maximum size of any article that we want.
And bullet pointed and bold the key stuff so we can just scan read it.
Exactly. Now, I think we all intuitively see this kind of happening, but my moral to the story here is what messaging are we giving out as our own small business owners? What when you're sending out newsletters, your information on your blog, on your website, in your brochures, in anything you're doing, I think if you're not keeping it short, if you're not cutting it back down and making it shorter, then you're actually going to have customers disconnect, because if it's too much there, they're not going to read it.
Yeah. Well, interesting, that whole simplicity. I mean, that simplification across so many areas of our businesses, because we do tend to complicate things, and often we do get caught up in the stuff that doesn't necessarily help grow our business. In the Small Business Big Marketing Forum recently, I posted a website. I've been looking for some crazy marketing ideas that I want to put a show together where I just literally interview owners of service and product providers with crazy marketing ideas. So I'm putting a bit of a list together, Griffo, and it started when I came across, this is going somewhere, just keep me on the simplicity train here, but it started with a website I came across called Flipsides, which is Flip, Sidez. Okay. And these guys make custom thongs with
is this the Roman thong?
No,
or
they're
the
not.
Aussie thong?
Well, the thongs for your feet.
Okay.
Flip flops in other countries, but they imprint your logo or a message, whatever you want, on the sole of the thong, so that when you're walking up and down the beach, it leaves an imprint. Right? I mean,
I love that.
Yeah, hilarious. Like as if people are walking on the beach. Oh, there's a domain name in the sand. I must Google that. But anyway, that's what they do. So look, I posted it in the forum looking for more crazy marketing ideas, but one of my forum members, Arn, long-time listener, first-time caller, came back and he said, look, he commented on the whole Flipsides thing, but what he picked up was a key takeaway, and I'm just going to read it here. He says, Timbo, what I love about this website, Flipsides, is one website, one product. How cool is that? I have serious envy for people smart enough to find a niche that is an inch wide and a mile deep. We have over 5,000 product lines. The management of all this is a logistical nightmare, but that is the nature of the market we choose to specialise in. This pair of thongs, one pair of thongs, presto, one business, amazing. And I feel that. I know exactly what he's talking about.
Isn't it? I think again that's a typical example of that. I encounter a lot of small business owners in my day to day of what I do, and if I was going to find fault in what people were doing from a marketing point of view, would be that it's probably more than anything is too much information in the world that. Try too hard to sell, try to give too much data. We're trained now to look deeper for data. So in my view, you're better off having 500 pages on your website, but your first 5 are really easy. If you want more information, there it is. If you're one of those people, you can go down 50 pages deep, but the initial contact and connection has to be simple. Well, I just believe that. And every day I was just checking some email earlier on and just getting some newsletters, and just looking at it going, it's just too much stuff here. I don't have time. I'll put it in my to read later file. And I know that in a month's time, I'll just select them all and delete them all because there was too much data. We have to get better and better at keeping it short, sharp, and to the point. Otherwise, we're going to start to have a disconnect with our customers. So I want to buy a set of those thongs.
I'd love to see you in a thong.
Careful what you wish for, my friend.
A mankini. I'm going to get you a mankini for your birthday. In fact, we'll do a show in one each. Now, Griffo, it's funny because that whole simplification thing. There is another saying on the reverse side of that. There is that saying, one is a very dangerous number in business. One client, one product line. What if the factory shuts down, or what if that one client disappears? So that's a kind of interesting kind of reverse side. But I'm just reflecting on some of the guests, and one guest recently that I've had on the show, Naomi Simpson from Red Balloon. And we talked for that entire episode about how her whole business, the Red Balloon business, is built on one word, and that one word is happiness. Everything she does. I mean, the actual offer itself is to create happiness. Yeah.
And I'm a very big believer, but I also, that concept of one being dangerous, I don't really agree with that anymore. I think it's a sound thing. Don't put all your eggs in the one basket and all that kind of jazz. We all kind of get that, but I believe that it's a little bit more now about doing one thing, doing it really well, if we wanted to try and pick that. And, as an example of that, look at another guy you interviewed, Mr. Will It Blend.
Oh, yeah.
All they do, blenders.
Tommy Dixon.
Just blenders. That's all we're going to do. We're going to purely, I really relate to the chap that wrote in as a listener. So how nice just to have one product. That's all we do. That's all we focus on. That's all we live it. We eat it. We breathe it. And unfortunately, most of us don't have that luxury. We have to offer a range of different things, because we think we have to offer it a lot of the time. And I question that. We think that choice, if we don't offer enough choice, then we're not being competitive enough. And I question that a lot, because I think, again, are we sometimes trying to offer a lot of choice because we think that that's what our customers want, or is it actually what they want?
Correct.
You know, and I don't necessarily know the answer, but I have a suspicion that we have our perceptions wrong. And that's another issue that I encounter a lot, mate. I'm sure you do too, is that we have perceptions about so many things that and we may have formed them many years ago as well, but are they right? Are they relevant? Are they true? And what about while we form that perception, the world's changed. Yet we're still hanging on to that perception. So what does that mean? Well, it means I think we've got to find ourselves, we've got to challenge the perceptions that we have, and we've got to ask long, hard questions and to say, look at all the things I do because I think I really need to be doing it. Well, do I have a cold shower and really ask yourself, do I really need to do this, or am I just doing it because I think I need to? You know, it's a big question.
Griffo, we are well and truly, we're at about the 48-minute mark. I am going to hold over. We have got a couple of other things to discuss, but I'm going to hold over till the next funny business, the concept of getting rid of clients.
And I love that. Such a wonderful one. I'm raring to go. Bring them on. Let me loose on them. Get rid of those clients.
Well, you've touched on it before, and I know how of a relief it was. But we've also got the power of disconnection in order to focus. We're going to leave that till the next episode of Funny Business, mate. What do you got coming up in this in the next couple of weeks?
Well, for me, I've got some key person of influence events happening around the country. KPI, where I talk about encourage people to write books.
And I interviewed Matthew Michaelwitz last week, and on Small Business Big Marketing.
Oh, great.
And boy, oh boy, have I had some wonderful feedback about him. Really struck a chord. In fact, I've been meaning, it only went up last Tuesday. I've been meaning to go back. I don't often listen to past episodes. It's one of those things that I just don't do, but I need to go back and have a listen to that interview, because I've had a great amount of feedback, and I just want to understand what it was that Matthew shared, because we covered a lot of ground. But Matthew is, for those who haven't heard that interview and wondering what Griffo's talking about in terms of key person of influence, excuse me, it's a well, I was going to say it's a series. It's a what is the how do you describe it? It's a movement.
It's a movement. It's a cult. You know, we have secret handshakes. We use iPhones, I might add, Timbo, too.
Well, there you go. I'm out.
You're out now. It's two things. One is it's these brand accelerator days, which are big days where we talk about pitching, partnerships, publishing, promotions, all kinds of things. And we get about 500 entrepreneurs come to those events in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. And then the second part of it is we have a 40-week incubator or training program for entrepreneurs and people, teaching them how to become key people of influence in their particular field. And it's from Daniel Priestley, who's started this whole thing over in the UK. Amazing young fella.
He is. Had him on the show. I've had him on the show.
Did you really?
Yeah, I had him on the show about 12 months ago, 18 months ago. So I'll put a link to the Daniel interview in there, because he's great stuff. So and now you and I are both speakers. You're a main speaker on the KPI stage, and I run. They've got some. They've got a little group of past KPIs, and the group is called GSD, stands for Get Shit Done, and that's where I speak at, helping people move forward with some areas of their marketing. What else you got on, Griffo?
I mentioned I'm off to Singapore, so doing a bit of work up there, talking to the guys at Google, which will be interesting, about doing some stuff with them and CBS. So that's pretty exciting. Some small business stuff, and really writing a new book.
Of course you are.
Of course, writing a new book. Someone's got to be the most expensive. It may as well be you, and that's the theme of this new book. That's my philosophy in life. And usual, mate, traveling around the countryside, looking forward to it. Great stuff happening. Beautiful time of year. Hard time to leave North Queensland, I might add, though. It's got down to a chilly 19 degrees last night, so the Ugg boots and the doona were out.
That's pretty cold for up there.
It is. We're not happy when it gets below 20. It's not good. So
no thongs for you.
No thongs. Goodness, what about you, buddy? What are you up to?
Mate, I'm speaking this week at Social Media Down Under in Sydney. I've got this Australia Post Roadshow going on for the next 5 weekends around Australia. I have got a bit of work I'm doing with some insurance companies, putting together a sort of online TV program for an insurance company that's targeted at their financial advisors. I'm putting together Oh, mate, a whole lot of stuff leading up to the end of the year, and I just sold my house and bought a house, so it's all happening.
Nice. Hey, mate, tell me, with the Australia postings, do you do they play like AC/DC music, and then like you ride a postie bike onto the stage with fireworks going off, something like that?
Well, yeah, they do. I don't know. I don't know how you knew that, but and I dress up as one of the village people, and I get to choose which one. It's generally the cowboy. Yeah.
So I would have picked you for the Indian.
Yeah, well, you don't know me well enough.
I don't know.
It's the leather and the cowboy costume that gets me every time.
Of course. All right, folks. Sorry about that.
Griffo, you're a shocker. It's been a pleasure. Lovely to catch up, mate. We've covered some serious marketing and small business ground. Hope you're still with us, listeners. Until next time, I'm Timbo Reid, and right there is AG, otherwise known as Andrew Griffiths, and this has been Funny Business. See ya.
Take care, folks.
Whoo, did we cover some marketing ground in that little episode of Funny Business? Hey, guys and girls, I hope you enjoyed it as much as Griffo and I do bringing it to you. We get together once every 4 or 5 weeks, so look forward to more of them. And there's a few that you can go back into the archives at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and sniff them out as well. If you've got a question you want to share, you want to kind of send to me that we can answer on the show, go to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Click on the contact button and you will find a little voicemail button. You will find a questions button, a feedback button. There's so many ways you can come through. You can come through facebook.com/smallbusinessbigmarketing and you can hit me up there. Got a question, got a comment, got some feedback. Just want to vent your spleen, go for it. I would love to hear from you. Then I know people are listening. So guys, that is another episode. Great interviews coming your way over the coming weeks. I'm going to keep a bit of a lid on it, but I promise you there is some gold in them there marketing hills. By the way, great feedback on last week's episode with Matthew Michael Witz. Really good feedback. Some of the most feedback I've had. So clearly you enjoyed that one. I'll try and find more of Matthew type interviews in the coming weeks. Hey, until then, you can check out the forum. If you want to connect with me on a daily basis, go to the smallbusinessbigmarketing.com website, click on the forum button, and you can join. You are in there straight away. Within a couple of minutes, you will be in there posting questions, leaving feedback, all that type of stuff to help grow your business. $49 a month. I'd do it if I was me, and I am. So I did. Enough of that. Getting silly now. See you next week. This has been Timbo Reid. We are brought to you by the guys at netregistry.com.au, and may your marketing be the best marketing. See ya.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.